Two, three, live. Good night, listeners of the Belize Affairs show. This is show number 27 for Friday, 18th of August, 2023. Tonight being Friday will be Constitutional and Legal Affairs Night. And my name is Leonard
Baby
Brackett.
drop like that.
I will be the host for tonight's program. I have with me as my co-host Mr. Roody Wade and Mr. Gregory Brackett. I'd like to turn over to Mr. Gregory Brackett for his personal introduction, and then we'll go to Mr. Wade.
Good night to the Belizean people at home and abroad in the diaspora. My name is Mr. Gregory Brackett, and again, I welcome you guys to this our 27th edition of Belizean Affair. Hopefully, again tonight, we will educate the public and the Constitution. With that said, let me turn it over to Mr. Wade for his introduction.
Thank you, guys. Pleasant good night to our viewers and listeners, both at home and abroad. And like Gregory and Leonard says, it's the 27th edition of Belizean Affairs. And as usual, you know, we start our program with a word, you know. So I'll jump right into it, and I left off at Jeremiah chapter 30. I'll do 10 to 15, 5 short verses. It says, "Then fear not, O Jacob, my servant, declares the Lord, nor be dismayed. O Israel, for behold, I will save you from far away, and your offsprings from the land of their captivity. Jacob shall return and have quite an ease, and none shall make him afraid. For I am with you to save you, declares the Lord. I will make a full end of all the nation among whom I scattered you. But of you I will not make a full end. I will discipline you in just measure. I will by no means leave you unpunished. For thus saith the Lord, your hurt is incurable, and your wounds are grievous. There is none to uphold your cause, no medicine for your wounds, no healing for you. All your lovers have forgotten you. They care nothing for you, for I have dealt you the blow of an enemy. The punishment of a merciless foe, because your guilt is great, because your sin are fragrant. Why do you cry out over your hurt? Your pain is incurable, because your guilt is great, because your sins are fragrant. I have done these things to you." That's my reading from Jeremiah 30, 10 to 15.
Amen.
I'll offer a prayer, you know, for us, you know. Divine Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight with our mission, and we hope and pray that you bless us, you guide us, you give us the wisdom, you give us the courage, You give us the understanding, and you give us the way to go through to deliver this message here tonight on our 27th edition of Belizean Affairs to the nation, to the poor and less fortunate. Because, Lord God, you know, whatever we say or we do, it's from the heart. And we are here to help our people, to give our people knowledge. For those who have ears, let them hear. And for those who have eyes, let them see. Lord God, please bless us tonight. In Jesus' name, I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Wade.
Thank you, Gregory.
Back
Thank you,
to
Mr.
you,
Wade.
Chairman, for
Yes, sir.
tonight.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir, for your input and for imploring to the Lord to guide us as we do this undertaking, especially for tonight. Tonight's show, as I previously stipulated, being Friday, is going to be dealing with the Constitution of Belize and some case law. And as well, we want to dedicate this particular program tonight to the government of Belize, to the PCC group, and particular as to Mr. Ed Usher, one of the educational campaign propagator. And the reason why I include him in specific and calling his name is because he continues on, apparently unaware that what he's speaking to as regards to Section 2 in our Constitution, the way he's presenting it, apparently without the knowledge and awareness that that particular part that he's referring to has already been ruled in our courts in a case that went to the Supreme Court, the Appellate Court, and the Caribbean Court of Justice. And for that matter having been declared, as the Constitution rightly states, any law that is inconsistent with the present Constitution, don't care how many legislators put their head together and decide to vote in favor of it, doesn't make it constitutional, legal, or appropriate. And by virtue of the declarations of the Constitution, as per what the judges they declared, it is null and void. And as one particular statement that the judge referred to in one of the SIs that was being bandied around and being used to prosecute other people or to take advantage of other people, the learned judge says it's non-existent or it doesn't have any effect of law and it's ineffective and unlawful. So I want to start tonight's program referring back again to the basic structure doctrine, Belize Constitution case law. The following comments and Belize case law citations were extracted from a Facebook post thread by Leonard Brackett and Mr. Elston Wade and others about Belize becoming a republic and citing the constitutionality of some changes that the government attempted to make. Our system of government, whether a parliamentary democracy, as we currently have, or a republic, which apparently is desired and they're trying to work their way towards, irrespective of which of these two types of governance, the bottom line is Any of these systems must adhere to the preamble of the Belize Constitution, and the court ruled as follows. In a case, I would like to let me preface. Let me go back a little bit, please, and preface the case. In fact, I'll come back to that because I don't want to kill time. I'll just continue on the journey that I'm on, so I don't kill time and we don't disjoint the whole presentation. There was a case that I was talking about last Wednesday, from which I took these quotes or these various pieces. The case consisted of an 80-page decision by Judge Legal, and I'll cite the name of the case when I get a chance again, like I said. But I'm going to page 78, where it speaks about declarations. And under declaration number 4, it said the learned judge went on to say, a declaration is granted that section 2, subsection 2, as well as section 69, subsection 9, and section 145, subsection 1 and 2 of the Constitution, as inserted by the Belize Constitution 8th Amendment at 2011, are contrary to the separation of powers doctrine and the basic structure doctrine of the Constitution, and are unlawful, null, and void. Section 145, subsection 3, is declared as meaningless, even though our House of Representatives passed that law to try and hoodwink the governance process of our country into believing, or into the general public accepting the premise that because the legislature passed that law, it had to have been ruled by the judiciary as being a law consistent with the Constitution. In other words, the previous Barrow administration overstepped its bounds and tried to make a power play or a power grab into deciding on their own what the jurisdiction of the court should be, and if and when the court were to be involved with any laws that the House makes, that then the judiciary should have to rubber stamp those laws and go along with those laws, even if they're inconsistent with the Constitution itself. When in fact the Constitution vests the right for judicial review and decision making as regards to what is right and what is not, as regards to what's legal or not, or what's constitutional or not, into the purview and responsibility of the court. It is not for the legislator to tell the court how to rule when these matters are dealt with, or for the legislator to try and box out the court, as the Barrow administration was trying to do under this particular section 2 of the Constitution, section 2, part 2. The problem is, not only did they tamper with that part of the Constitution in putting in that extra subsection 2, which was to tell the court or to tell anyone reading that particular piece of stuff, as Mr. Usher is currently doing, to say that so long as the legislator writes a law under section 69 and meets the obligation of section 69, then the court or the judiciary should have no powers to dictate or to advise or to explain or express or clarify otherwise. That was not for the legislator or the administration under the Barrow administration to determine or to decide. They were out of their elements and out of their jurisdiction. They were contravening the very constitution that they swore to uphold. And as lawyers and senior lawyers at that, I'm fairly well sure that they knew that they were ultra-virusing the constitution and doing something that was constitutionally incorrect. But it was just a power grab. Because had the court entertained that idea, it would have then meant that the Barrow administration would have succeeded at what the present administration is trying to piggyback on, to use an ill-advised effort by the previous administration for the present administration to hide behind, to go ahead and commit crimes against the people under the color of law. So because the Barrow administration tried to do it, the Belizean administration currently is apparently believing that since there's only 2 political parties in the country, they should be entitled now to go ahead and further the unconstitutional act of the previous administration, which was declared to be unconstitutional by the court itself. So then the present administration is going to play the same process, pretend like they don't know that the matter needed to be taken out of the constitution, and have Mr. Osha reading the stuff, pretending that he doesn't know otherwise, and that he's genuinely trying to be helpful in reading something out of the constitution that does not belong and should not be in the constitution itself, giving it or lending it credence and credibility. If it's unconstitutional, it's unconstitutional. So ruled the Supreme Court. So ruled the Appellate Court. And the highest court at the Caribbean Court of Justice did not object to and or did not alter or disagree with the previous lower court's ruling. So for all intents and purposes, the ruling was in good order, and the administration and the legislature should have gone ahead, clean up their act, present a new legislation without those offending parts. Instead, now what they're doing is using the very offending parts to move forward and to pretend that they're moving forward legitimately. They're a bunch of scofflaws. The court is not going to take on the responsibility of the legislators to go and amend a law that is incorrect. By virtue of that law being ruled null and void, the court will not go out of its own jurisdiction to go and legislate the law correctly. That's the purview of the legislators. And that falls on the purview of the government to not administrate contrary to the laws. So both the cabinet and government of the country, as well as the legislators, are hell-bent in being scoff laws. They don't care what the court says. As a matter of fact, the present prime minister that we have seems not to have any regards to anything that we court of we legal system of we constitution says. They just do as they wish, and unless somebody takes them to court on it and proves that the court and have the court rule, they're going to go ahead and do what they want. I have news for them. As of today, going forward, if they persist, including the lawyers them among themselves, in not giving the government proper or correct advice, including our current new Attorney General, if he fails to perform his job as he's supposed to do, and the Prime Minister himself fails to perform his job and require of his cabinet members to perform their job as they're supposed to do, under the oath to the Constitution that they swore allegiance to and fidelity to, then it falls on my shoulder and the shoulder of other people like myself to take them to court. And if that's what we're going to end up having now, a constitutional court battle in order to secure the rights and well-being of the country, then the government can continue being a scofflaw and act under the color of law and do wrong things, but should not expect that we will sit by and let them get away with it. That will stop one way or another, because the process will be pursued while they have an advantage in being able to dip into the public treasury and the public funds to defend themselves for their wrongdoing. And we don't have that level of financial backing, which is what they're hoping will stop or deter us from being in their way. I have news for them. Moving forward, that will not be the case as it was in the past. A judicial review will be sought whenever they violate our constitution. That's the new paradigm that we're dealing with as of today. So they either get the sense or they get themselves whiplash. Because every step when I make, if they're making those steps outside of the bounds of the Constitution, there's somebody going to be there to demand that they come back in compliance and do the right thing. And we will not be suing only our government. The intent is to make them feel it in their own pocket. This idea about them just using the government coffers to back them up in their dastardly conduct, and when anything goes wrong and anybody sue them, that the government, that we the same people have to pay for those expenses. Here on forward, we'll be suing not only the ministers and whoever else head of department or whoever else is involved in forwarding the transgressions. We will be suing in their individual capacity as servants of public servants, but as individuals who are supposed to know better and are hiding behind the powers of governance and the deep pocket of our government. So be therefore warned that if they want to continue that process, they're exposing themselves to personal liability as well. I want to go on with my program. Under page number 50 of the same case that I'm making reference to, which I'll identify in a little while, hopefully, if I remember. Item number 45, small b, under the title of Basic Structure Doctrine of the Belize Constitution, it says, the basic structure doctrine holds that the fundamental principles of the preamble of Belize Constitution have to be preserved for all times to come, and that they cannot be amended out of existence, though a reasonable abrogation of some fundamental rights could be affected for the public safety or public order, as fundamental rights provisions of the Constitution of Belize recognize. But that of itself does not authorize them to willy-nilly or just arbitrarily and capriciously depend on that statement there to go and decide, okay, well, we're going to derogate people's right without having to come to a plebiscite, because the Constitution does require them to come with a plebiscite if they want to derogate those rights, or if they can get a statutory instrument signed off by the Governor General under the category as an SOE. But just for them to decide that they're going to classify a circumstance, whichever it may be, as a state of emergency circumstance, is not necessarily a viable or valid way for an SOE to be declared or to be sought or to be gotten. There must be some substantive methods and means for testing the validity of such a request. And tonight, I'm personally asking the Governor General, in the context of this particular show, to please exercise her prerogatives the way it was supposed to intended to be exercised. And do not have the government playing shell game and having the authority vested in the Governor General to be signing matters that the Governor General is not fully appraised of, or I'm trying to make sure I don't use the wrong word, or correctly understand. There must be some context to the exercise of those powers. The Governor General has the authority and the right to request of the government of Belize any information that is relevant to anything that has to do with the governance of the country of Belize. And therefore, I'm asking the Governor General to please attend to those peculiarities of her right to exercise those prerogatives, because it is so established and expected in the context of the purpose for which it serves. It is not supposed to be a situation where the government just say, okay, well, we are going to declare a state of emergency when there is none or no need for any of such. And by virtue of making that declaration, that they should just have the Governor General arbitrarily and capriciously, willy-nilly sign off on an incomplete document, as is the case and was the case, and I think still remains the case of the present SOE, under which the present government has went around and picked up people and have them in prison without them being able to have access to a lawyer, without them being able to have a case being brought, and having them hold for 30 days at a time, and then go back and grab them up for another 30 days and keep the cycle going. That's a travesty. And the Governor General have the right and the purview to query into those matters and to make sure that she's not being, her authority is not being used, misused, and abused. And for her to be signing or assenting to give powers to the government that the government takes and uses against the people arbitrarily and capriciously. That should not be. We're not in a republic. We're in a constitutional democracy. And we're a country of laws. We cannot have law breakers scoff laws, pretending to be making laws without following the proper prescriptions and procedures or practices, and trying to apply those laws against the citizenry of the country. That's a travesty. I need to continue my program. There is, though, a limitation on the powers of amendment. By implication, the words of the preamble, therefore, every provision of the Constitution is open to amendment. And they would like that statement to just stop right there and nothing else goes on. But there are qualifiers to the previous statement. And the qualifiers are provided. Different parts of the Constitution is subject to amendment, provided that the foundation or basic structure of the Constitution is not removed or damaged or destroyed. There are conditions under which the authority that is granted to be exercised can be exercised. There is legitimacy that is required for those powers to be exercised. Otherwise, to exercise those powers without legitimacy and just willy-nilly is a contravention of the expectation of the spirit of the Constitution and the spirit of the preamble of the Constitution, which gives effects to the laws. There are processes, procedures, and practices and protocols. But these knucklehead people that are running our government pretend that whatever comes out of their head is the law. The basic structure includes the judiciary, the legislature, the rule of law, judicial review, separation of powers, and maintaining the balance and harmony of the provisions of the Constitution, all of which are protected and safeguarded by the preamble of our Constitution. Even though some people say the preamble is not part of our Constitution, I don't know what law school they went to. I therefore ruled, said the judge in this particular case, that even though provisions of the Constitution can be amended, as noted above, the National Assembly is not legally authorized to make any amendment to the Constitution that would remove or destroy any of the basic structure of the Constitution of Belize. That's another qualifier, right? The judge went on to say, as I see it, Glen Rock, which is a preeminent case established in stare decisis case law, which is why the judge cited it, as a matter of fact. The judge went on to say, I see it. Glen Rock teaches us that the fundamental rights in a constitution, that is that they were not just referring to Belize Constitution alone, but in any constitution that deals with the Commonwealth, that the fundamental rights in a constitution are inherent and cannot be extinguished by a constitutional or statutory provision, and any law that abrogates or extinguishes such rights would be violative of the basic structure. And it goes on to speak some other matters. I want to touch, before I turn over to my cousin Greg or Mr. Wade for comments, I want to touch on this other item here. Some people have the impression that the National Assembly of Belize can, subject to the limitations and amendments in section 69, 2, 3, and 4 of the Constitution, that they can make any amendment that they want to the Constitution. But that would seem, as shown above, to ignore the intentions of the makers of the Constitution as propounded in its preamble. In other words, if the present government can go ahead and just write any law that they want, and if they can get all the other members of the opposition to agree with them, and you have 100% of the members of Congress, all 31 of them agreeing to make an unconstitutional law, in other words, to abrogate the Constitution, to overthrow the Constitution, to change the Constitution, or to amend the Constitution in any way that derogates the basic structure, doctrine, or inalienable rights of the country without following the proper process, such as required by the Referendum Act under the People's Act, People's uh, the People's Referendum Act, and where you find the ability for the people to be able to vote in and out their representations or their representatives. If the government was to so one day decide, you know what, we're just going to blow this thing open and we're going to do what we want and to hell with whatever was before. They cannot create a new constitution while the existing constitution still lives. So in order for them to create a new constitution, they got to overthrow the whole constitution or make the whole constitution defunct, null and void, or non-existent. But they can't use the powers of the present constitution to overthrow it. They swore allegiance to it, and that is what is expected of them, to have fidelity to the existing constitution. They have the powers vested in them right now to make modifications of the present constitution as need be for the well-being and management of the country. But any such modification has to be done within the bounds of the present constitution and must not be violative of the fundamental rights of the people, of the basic structure doctrine, and of the separations of powers. As the chairman, I would like to ask Gregory to expand on that matter for me.
Thank you for your information. Well said, but before I go to that, I would like to hear Mr. Wade's input.
My brother Leonard, you said a lot there. You know, as the nation knows, and the people who tune in to us knows that ever since they started to embark on this reform, we have dedicated ourselves to educate the people on this very same topic. And reason why we do it, in my view, is that, you know, the message that they are sending out to the public is not their real intention. So, in my view, it's a trickery, right? The Constitution, that's something that we, from birth, we have been living by. I would say 90% of our people do not know anything about the Constitution. So they already know that. So what they do to spice it up, oh yeah, we are going to the public to educate you on your basic rights, right? When they are the gross violators of the Belizean rights in this country. Past government, they prostitute the Constitution, have been prostituting the Constitution to suit themselves. This government is no different. Have been prostituting the Constitution to suit themselves. You see what they do when they take away people's land and take away people's right, just because they have the power to do it, although they are violating the Constitution. Do they care? Hell no, they do not care, because they know it takes money, which people do not have, to take them to court. They do not care, because they know it takes money. which people do not have to take them to court. So, this government, are gross violators, and they going to be using the people, yes, and they going to push through their agenda, right? This constitution exercise that they are on, they know damn well that they don't have any good intention for this country, nor for its people. They don't have any good intention for this country, nor for its. So the problem is what that I have, right, is that they're going through this constitution reform without being truthful. That's the problem I have, right? They're going through this constitution reform on trickery. They excluded certain people to be on this commission. They are honoring an individual there, Mr. Roscoe, right? Because he has his agenda, and this thing is big, right? This whole damn constitution reform is big, right? Because he wants to take God out of the constitution. That individual, I don't know if I should say a he or a she, right? But I'll say the individual, right? He has his own damn agenda. And in my view, he shouldn't be on that constitution at all. He shouldn't be. How dare, he's going to speak that way, the way he speaks about our constitution. Who gave him that authority? Who? So, you could say whatever you want to say about me, but I believe, it is his prerogative to be who he is, or do whatever he want to do with his life, right? And he even want to instill his values in the education system, in the schools. He has a big influence on that. Like I say, this reform is bigger than we are thinking, right? But anyway, I say this to say that, I said it before and I say it again. As a Belizean, a band Belizean who have been living with with our constitution, right? I personally see nothing wrong with it in terms of the way they are mashing it up and doing what the hell they want to do with it. What I would like to see is for them to strengthen it. Like, for instance, enshrine that we have elected senators instead of appointed senators. These are the people that run our affairs. They are not being elected by the people, but they have powers up the yin to do whatever the hell they want with this country and its assets, right? I would like to see them being elected instead of appointed. Like I say again, I would like to see them be strong in implementing UNCAC. If it takes to put it, enshrine it in our constitution, well, hell, do it. Because that is the biggest problem in our country, right? We need them to UNCAC. That's an emergency, right? Are they dealing with that? No. But anyway, that as far as I go with the conversation right now, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wade, for your contribution and your passion and commitment to the well-being of our country, sir. Greg, are you ready to?
I thank you, guys. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome, sir.
I would like to state that on more than one platform, I have spoken about the Constitution. I have came with case laws, as my cousin had done. I have implemented the most important part of the Constitution. Again, I will say tonight, the present government have a supermajority to create any substantive laws that they want to create, except one thing, that is to violate the structure of the Constitution, which protects the fundamental rights of the people in Section 1 and Section 2. And not to forget that these rights are also protected by the Referendum Act. I'm saying this because we have the present government that has virtual platform and third party going around teaching the people of Belize about their fundamental rights. But what they are not teaching the people is about the basic structure which protect those rights, and why they are coming to the people talking about constitution reform. And that reason is because the government is trying to get you to give up your fundamental rights. Per se, your action, if you listen to them, they are asking you to tell them what part of the Constitution you would like to take out and what part you would like to put in. This is a telltale sign of a government who is trying to turn its citizens into sovereign citizens against the head of state. And you can see the telltale sign, because if you listen to these people when they say something, they always tell on themselves. It's not too long ago when I was on a different platform that I had asked a question, and as up to date, no one had ever answered it. The question I had asked was, does anyone believe that the present government is trying to achieve the agenda of the late Right Honorable Judge Cadel Price? Nobody wanted to answer it. And they asked me what was the answer to that. And I told them to turn Belize into a republic. Now here we are today, and we are living it. We are slowly heading left as we see the telltale signs. Removing the Queen's head from the currency. Deputy Prime Minister talking about new identity. The Prime Minister speaking about using parliamentarian votes to do that. Let me say this, right? Because as my cousin was elaborating on the basic structure, let me show you how our rights have been violated by the past government, who wanted to take away land from the people of Belize in the name of government use, but did not want to pay redress for those property. He tried this under Section 3 of the 8th Amendment, okay? And what the Section 3 of the 8th Amendment tried to do is Section 69 of the Constitution is hereby amended by the addition of the following new subsection after subsection 8. And if you have the Constitution, kindly look up 69 and you go to section 9. This is what they add in to give them power to do what they wanted, and it was ruled null and void. Section 9 specifies, for the removal of doubt, it is hereby declared that the provision of this section are all inclusive and exhaustive, and there is no other limitation, whether substantive or procedural, on the power of the National Assembly to alter this constitution.
That is what I
That is
refer
what
to as
the
power grab.
that is what the past government did. And by doing this, because it is not removed from the present constitution, they are making believe that this section gives them the right to violate the basic structure of the doctrine, which is the acts and everything. But in order to get that, what they're doing, section 69 and 68. Section 69 is like a book. It is only the procedural information which is telling them how they can go about amending the Constitution, but they cannot violate the structure of the Constitution. And Section 68 is the part that holds them accountable to make sure that they do not do this. But now we find the present government using Section 9 of 69 as though it is active and wants to amend the Constitution informally. Both governments has did this. The last government did this before under the state of emergency when they violated the rights of the people. And when we had the border jumpers, if you had violated that, the fine was of only $200. They went and amended the Constitution to say 5,000, which was in violation of the Act and the basic structure. So now here we are looking at the present government trying to continue to use this section to get what they want done. With that said, I would like to turn it over to the chairman.
Thank you very much, sir. And I would like to continue right on that same point to say that when I made reference earlier in the first part of my presentation about the past administration under Part 1 of our Constitution, Section 2, and Section 2.1, which existed prior, they went on to do what is called a power grab by attempting to amend Section 69, 9, subsection 9, to say that they were taking on to themselves the full power and authority to be vested in them to decide, and not for the court to decide, what is constitutional or not, and that the court have no jurisdiction or power over the laws that they, the legislator, make, and that they also proceeded to amend Part 1, Section 2, subsection 1, by calling the previous subsection 1 as 1 and adding an additional part there to empower themselves under a subsection 2 of the same section that never existed before then. And I'll read that part for you so you can see how ludicrous these guys were and how contagious they really were as regards to abiding fidelity to the Constitution that they swore allegiance to, and having no regards or respect for the very same Constitution. The Barrow administration went on to say, with their new subsection 2, the words other law, because under subsection 1, okay, let me read subsection 1 before I do subsection 2, because there must be a context for people to understand what's really going on. Just proceed to read what was there before and then read what they added. Section 2, subsection 1 reads as follows. This Constitution is the supreme law of Belize. And if any, remember this following 2 words, other laws. I'll repeat it for emphasis. 2 words only. Any other law is inconsistent with this Constitution, that other law shall, to the extent of the inconsistencies, be void. So now they went on and plugged in for anything that contravened the very existing Constitution by classifying other law not to be what the Constitution used to call it. Any other law that the legislature make that is not in conformity with the Constitution is violating the Constitution and should be ruled as null and void, which the court had been doing over and over before. So they want to take that power away from the court, and they want their other law, as I emphasized earlier, to trump the Constitution, which is a no-no. The Constitution itself forbids that to happen. And any administration, cabinet, or legislator in their right mind would not and should not transgress the Constitution in that kind of way. Because it is presumed that as legislators, at least they understand what the Constitution is and how to make laws or to correct laws. It's a simple little job the man they have, and they still can't get it done right. Not because they can't, they don't want to. They want to haul and pull the Constitution and disrespect the Constitution. They will get from the Constitution and power play the Constitution and give themselves the so-called supreme powers of the land. When in fact the Constitution itself says that the law of the Constitution is the supreme power or law of the land, not the ideas that come out of the minister's their head or the cabinet their head or the prime minister head or the head of the legislators then. For whatever comes out of their head has to square with the Constitution. You can't go against the Constitution and then claim that it's constitutional. That's a bunch of hogwash. If all of them get together, like I keep saying to some knuckleheads back home when I really understand what the Constitution is speaking to when it says that you cannot ultravirus the Constitution, get together, all 100% of the legislators, them 31 at this point, make one constitutional law and pretend that it's constitutional, or you decide that it is constitutional when in fact the court will tell you it's not, and it is the court jurisdiction to tell you when it's not. But you want to dismiss the court findings anyhow and just want to go ahead and do what you want because you are the Almighty. You are above even the Constitution. Bunch of jack, whatever it is that we would call him back home, no? But let me read what the man put in, right? And where the learned Mr. Ed Usher is pretending to teach the people him, apparently not knowing that while that stuff is hard copied right now in the Constitution or the copy of the Constitution, that it should not have been there because it was already ruled as null and void. Apparently, he no follow case laws. Apparently, he no does no cases anymore. And the cases when he used to do them as magistrate cases, which was just basically civil tort, not constitutional, by the way. Civil tort, it's a different section of the laws. But by virtue of his experience in 15 years of dealing with civil tort laws, with little petty crimes and things like those that used to come to him as a magistrate, I don't think that he could tell anybody out here that he ever sat on a murder case at the Supreme Court level or at the appellate level or at the final court of the Caribbean level as a judge. And therefore, his impression or opinion should be given any much more weight than any of those that came to any of the judges that sit in those different forums or levels of our constitutional jurisprudence. So I would like to have a conversation with him if he would entertain it. So I can explain to him what is it that he apparently don't understand, don't know, but is trying to teach and mislead our people about. But I'm of the opinion that I don't have to go that far because I think the man is a learned enough person to know that he's doing wrong. If the government not like for him to do right, then he shouldn't be hiding behind the position given to him and help the government do wrong or do wrong on behalf of the government, because that violates his ethics, his morals, and his professional standings. Am I wrong to question those things? Or am I right to point them out to the general public and to him, which is why I call him by name? If I'm defaming him, he knows where the courts are in Belize. And our laws in Belize have within them as treaties with the American government that they can ask for my extradition if and when they feel like they have enough substance behind the case. Because when I sue them, or when they try to sue me, they want to try to sue me for defamation under false pretext with the idea that that will clear up their name. But when I sue them or come to sue them, it's going to be for damages to their pocket for them to learn the lessons that they need to learn at their own expense, not at the public trial. That's the difference between me and them. Okay? They want to hide behind free government's deep pocket and play mischief. But I know what party hurt for them. Their own pocket. And that's the way I would always go. Not as the only and last resort, by the way, anyhow. So let them not fool themselves. But let me read the thing where Mr. Manley tried to teach, right? That should not be in our constitution. But as I'm reading it, I'm showing you it is in there. Okay? It is in there. So that's the excuse that he won't find to decide to read it to the people and try to explain to the people that the government have a right to make just about any law and to violate the Constitution, and that the ultimate power rise or resides in the government, which is not true. Because even after they've done right the laws in Congress, they still have to go curry favor with the Governor General, hoping that the Governor General can give them ascension powers for it to become law. So that's the kind of hijinks when I have with the Belizean public rallying to and playing games with, when in fact the Governor General is supposed to be there as a backstop against these kind of shenanigans. But the Governor General can't backstop nothing like this and demand that these things are dealt with adequately unless they are informed or unless they know. Because their responsibility is to make sure that these kind of travesties don't happen, and for them not to be aiding and abetting it in the first place by giving attention to it. So if I'm speaking to the Governor General, it's because I need to. Most people will say the Governor General have access to legal advice. which is the Attorney General. But that is not the legal advice that the Governor General need from the very same people or group of people or cabinet members who are sending her or him, in this case, her, sending her bogus legislation that doesn't square with the Constitution, anti-constitutional legislation that she then would turn around and assent to in ignorance of the fact that there's an ascension to something that is illegal and unconstitutional. The Governor General is supposed to be given enough of a budget for her to have a constitutional-minded legal person in her office to help point out to her when something is being brought to her table for ascension before she assents to it, that matter might be contravening the Constitution and may be illegal, so that they don't have to wait for the court to then, after the matter is assented to, inappropriately at that, as I'm trying to intimate or stipulate, that the court will rule that this matter here was null and void and contravened the Constitution, and that the government should go and clean the constitutional matter, make it right, and stop derogating from the Constitution, and stop trying to use that derogation from the Constitution to make a power grab, which is what this was all about from the get-go. I still haven't read the I'm sorry. I still haven't read the thing. Make I read it, please. Because I could go on and on and on, and even by reading it, no, I make it disappear out of the Constitution currently as it is. But they who are going around teaching it should know that they should not be teaching something that is already ruled over and over as unconstitutional, null and void. Get the damn thing out of the Constitution. Because when anybody pick up a Constitution like what he do right now and they teach their kids at school, this kind of craziness here. When the kid then read it in the Constitution, they swear believe that, well, the man they teach something that is in there, so he must be correct. He himself, when he opened the Constitution the last time at the Belize City meeting and at the Corozal meeting, he quoted this specific date right here when this item was put into the Constitution. So by quoting that date, he should have been aware that this matter is in there, of course, while he's quoting it, but should have been aware that the matter was dealt with in the court at all the different levels and was struck down. So why is he teaching it as if it's still valid, as if it's not null and void? That's craziness. That's misinformation, miseducation. And it's a very substantive matter. It's not just a little wee part of the Constitution somewhere back there in the corner where once in a million years going to get looked at and probably used. This is a primary part of the Constitution that tells the members of Congress that they have the authority, regardless of what the High Courts have said, that they have the authority to dismiss the High Court's input. And especially right now with a super majority that we have in the present House under the present PUP government. Of course, their mindset have always been like that anyhow. They never had to have no super majority, but they have it. Which is why they are acting so. Oh, man. Let me read it here. I'm emotionally distressed with this issue, and I need for those who are in authority to do something about it. I can't take their hand and force them to do what they need to do. When they collect with pay and with money as salary for do their job. All I could ask them to do that, do their job. But stop take with pay. If you don't want to do the job, don't collect no salary. But if you want to collect the salary, do the damn job. Okay? Stop playing crazy, in other words. Part 1, Section 2 of our Constitution in Belize, and Subsection 2 needs to be taken out of our Constitution and stop being referred to and used for miseducation purpose. This is what it says. Section 2, Subsection 2. It says, the words other law in quotation mark. So it means that they recognize it and emphasizing it as something that they're attacking that came from the previous section 1. And now with Section 2, they're trying to undo Section 1. I don't know how Mr. Barrow, in his legal mindset and level of competence, could have tried to pull this one on us. He did, because the damn thing is written in here as of today that I'm reading it. But that's how conniving the gentleman was, okay? And when I complained to them that they were violating the Constitution in so many different ways, then dismissed my complaints and just went on to do whatever the hell they wanted anyhow. So much for, anyhow, I need to just read the thing and get it over with. I could comment afterwards, because I'm abusing people's patience. I mean, people are probably wanting to hear or know what is it I'm trying to read. And it's because it troubles my mind so much that I'm trying to explain away the pros and the cons, even before I read the stupid thing. So make I read it. Make I finish reading it, please. My audience, please bear with me. But this is something critical that we all have to pay attention to. And we have to rise up, even we have to have demonstration, or we have to vote the present government out if they try using kind of craziness against we, or whatever. But we, the people of Belize, have to safeguard our own constitutional rights. We cannot depend on scofflaws to do it for us. Section 2 says, the words other law occurring in subsection 1 above of this section do not include a law to alter any of the provisions of the Constitution of this Constitution, which is passed by the National Assembly in conformity with Section 69 of the Constitution. Now, had they just said this, that would have been bad enough, because they're saying that they're in this subsection 2 attempting to overthrow subsection 1, which was the primary law the way it was originally stipulated. But they went on to say that so long as they conform with Section 69, which is a guide on how they could change the Constitution, they should be able to change this part of the Constitution too, when in fact they damn well know that that's not permitted, because this is a basic structure item in the Constitution itself. All legal minds in Belize know that, from the junior law clerks to the senior counselors to the judges, and especially veteran law people like Mr. Barrow. So he should not have done what he did to us. The deed was already done, which is why they're out of government right now. Okay? They had to suffer the consequence and be disciplined for misconduct. And so will be the present government, be disciplined for misconduct. And they could continue the way they are going right now and see if my words are not going to come true. Because as of right now, they are just halfway through their term. And there's over 24 different items of which they should be disciplined for. If they call the election 6 months ago, they could have probably won it hands down. If they call it now, it's a toss-up. And if they call it within the next 3 to 6 months, more likely than not, they will be brushed aside and will not be a government of Belize for a long, long time to come. Why? Because of this same kind of nefariousness that they are perpetrating right now, and doing so willfully, without any regards for us, the people of Belize, and our well-being, trying to put us over a barrel so that they can make one money on the side. and we will end up to pay the piper for decades to come. Enough of that craziness there. We need a change. But anyhow, the reason why they put that two words in quotation, other law, is to refer back to what section 1 above that was saying. That is that if any other law is inconsistent with this constitution, that other law shall, to the extent of the inconsistency, be void. So now they declare themselves that they will make laws that cannot be ruled inconsistent with anything that's in the present constitution, because they make those laws and they are superpowered and superimposing legislative power as supreme law of the land rather than the law of the land being the constitution. So they say the words other law to them occurring in subsection 1 above, which was the original constitutional intent of this section, do not include, as far as they're concerned, making now the new section 2, do not include a law or any law to alter any of the provisions of this constitution, which is passed by the National Assembly in conformity with section 69 of the Constitution. When in fact, had they stopped right there, as I said before, that would have been bad enough. But how daring and fiercey this bunch of idiots were, to the extent that they're gone, and the same section 69 that they refer to here now, they gone and add some additional subsection to that to bolster this section 2, subsection 2, that they're now including in the thing. In other words, when they give backative to the crimes what they don't commit here, right? Then they put in other words in the other part of the same 69 what they refer to, so that they could go and refer to that other words that they put in now, and not the original 69. They don't want to stay within the limitations of the original guidance of the previous 69 stipulations. They want to add additional word for backup what they just say right now. This is not just a sleight of hand. This is outright contempt, egregiousness, scofflaw behavior. And Greg, the judge took a swipe at that area too. Judge Legal, when he said that 69(9) is also in breach of the Constitution and is ruled null and void. Did they ever went back and clean that up and take it out? No. It is right there for anybody now to pick up and read. And I would definitely show Mr. Osha try and use that and say, well, 69 gives them the power. So long as they could come up with the majorities required under 69, they can change just about any part of the Constitution, including the part that is being told to them that they cannot and should not tamper with, the basic structure doctrine. They don't give a hell about no basic structure doctrine and any powers of the Constitution. They want to do just about what they want to do. And even though they have learned people among themselves, like I keep saying over and over, they have top-notch lawyers. They have junior lawyers, and they also have, I'm going to call a name. Mr. Courtney. He is one of our foremost constitutionalist lawyers and top advocate or top senior lawyers in the country. And you want to tell me that this man not care enough about what goes on in our country to the extent that he want to allow something like this to stay on the book and not advocate against clearing it up? If you get paid to be one minister, if you get paid to be one senator, and not only just a regular senator, he's the senator of government business, so they get paid more than a regular senator. He's also getting paid as a member of cabinet, as the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. We have a lot of different departments underneath it. The man they get paid for Mr. Ashcroft, y'all in case they win a fight now to Mr. Ashcroft against Belize. And money where they come out of weak offers again. So the third way they get money out of the coffers, right? And the man they get money out of, I mean, you got a retirement where you can get as a senator, you got a retirement as a member of the cabinet. You know, you have so many different perks. You don't have to drive your own vehicle, you don't have to pay for your own gas. Like most other people that work for the government have to do. That's just one person I referred to just now, right? Who I think that has the capacity, the capability, and should have the willingness, as well as the patriotic ambition and fortitude to not have this kind of travesty exist in a free country, because he's an officer of the law. He's an officer of the court. He's an officer who uses and expounds the Constitution as a way of life and living, and as a way of making a living. Are you going to tell me with all the money where he get out of week offers, he can't spend a few enough minutes to see to it that this matter is dealt with? And then we have all the other lawyers them in there. In addition to private lawyers that they're constantly paying money to. They pay money just the other day, 200,000 and more to one lawyer, and then when the lawyer gives them a recommendation, they dismiss it. And then they're gonna pay another lawyer. Big time liars, you know, not only Poco Tempo liars, we talk about hundreds of thousands of dollars. Okay. So the man then can afford to get legal advice and get lawyers and get draftsmen and do, they have the ability to be able to do what is right to rectify what needs to be done. Gregory, take over, because I'm about to disrespect myself. You know, and I don't think I need to
Well,
do that.
I don't think you can express it no better than that, but let me say this. Senior Counsel Mr. Iman Courtin was a part of that case, as well as the ex-Attorney General, Ms.
So
Magalia Marine.
They know.
They all know what is happening.
That's why I call him in.
And this is not the first time. Because also, like this case you are speaking about, which is the telemedia case, they sat on the Boeing case and the same thing happened to them.
Exactly.
They were told outright about it. And not only that, Miss Marine, I believe, went on to mention in the Boeing case that the people don't have all that rights. That rights is something that is being taken away every day. I mean, these are senior counsel, and the case are there. The case are there for anyone to read and understand about the power grab. That the past government amended Section 2 and came up with a Section 9 and a 69 to give the government full powers, so that when they take away any property from anybody, that the people who they take these property away from cannot seek judicial review under Section 20.
Correct.
So they will bar the courts, as they say. Well, the supermajority did it, so the courts can't tamper with it. That's the power trip that they did. And rightfully said, when I asked Mr. Usher about the basic structure, he came with the amending of Section 2 to me and said it was amended. And I keep asking him to see if he would have said, you know what, the section was ruled non and void. He is teaching it as though the government with the supermajority has the right to change anything they want in violation of the basic structure. When again, as I said before, S69 is only a guide. It's like a book to tell them how they can go about amending the Constitution.
That's why
they need to stop. They need to stop make believe to the people because the people who does not read the Constitution believes that because they have the majority, yes, they can do just anything.
No.
That is not
Nope.
so. That is why we have Section 68 to control him. And whenever they want to fool around with the structure of the Constitution, it is a bar by it, and it is a bar which is protected by the Referendum Act. Before you can fool around,
They shall have a referendum. They cannot just
before you before you can fool around with the people's fundamental right, Section 3 through 19, that is protected by the judiciary under Section 20. You must have a referendum. In fact, in the Boeing case, the learned judge even went on to say that when they are passing these essays into law and the completion of the readings before it is assented to by the GG, if it will violate the right of the people, right then and there, they
have to.
must, they
As for,
have to have a
have to ask
referendum. It's right there.
Ask the Governor General for a writ of referendum.
Exactly. And many people don't know that.
This is a violation of the
Many
rules
people,
and the
it is
procedures
in
that are
violation of the rule. Many people don't know that. So people need to read up and know what their fundamental rights are. This is the said reason why the government is coming to you, asking you, and trying to teach you about your fundamental rights in the Constitution. That is because he knows that he cannot touch it. So he's using you as a ploy by misleading you when he is asking you to see what you want to change and what you want to take out, when in reality, they are trying to rewrite the whole Constitution. And as mentioned in the preamble, your fundamental rights are enshrined in the Constitution and they cannot be written out of existence. So if he wants to do constitution reform and come with a new one, the first thing he had to move over was Section 1 and Section 2 and strengthen it, including the judiciary. But he is not trying to do that. He's trying to turn you, the Belizean citizen at home and abroad, into sovereign citizen against the crown, against the head of state. And when he accomplished that, he will turn around and say, you know what? Well, it's you, the people, who wanted that done. Don't be tricked by them. Read up on your constitution. Read about the basic structure doctrine. It is right there. There are case laws out there that will assist you. The telemeter case, the Boeing case, and the most important one, the Veos case, which was a case used against the past government when he violated the Referendum Act. So people, kindly read up on those cases. If you want to know about your rights, don't get caught up with this trick. Read those cases as I just mentioned. Then no one will come to you.
A lot of people don't have access to those cases. Now, do they have access to a constitution? And that's the reason why they get bamboozled, you know, unfortunately.
Right. With that said, Mr. Wade, your input?
Well, you guys, are right on the money again. Leonard, you mentioned about the Governor General, right? you know, it's plain to be seen that, you know, we hear the saying say she's just a figurehead, right? Or he or she's just a figurehead, right? We must first realize that who elect the governor general, past and present, and what walks of life do they come from, and who do they answer to, or who do they support, right? Governor General, we all know that he was picked by Brisenia, and we know it shouldn't be that way, but that's the way it is, right? That, and past and present, you know, the UDP picked their own Governor General, and they all use it in the name where the Governor General is is answer to the Queen then, right? Which is hogwash, right? You know, the Governor General answer to the period, to the party who pick and who get the job, right? Same thing here, right? So I pity her, because it seems that she doesn't know, you know, what to do, what to sign, when to sign, or who to question, right? Or when to question, right? They just, you know, yeah, they just bring some papers to, yeah, and I could imagine what happened, because I've seen it over the years. I was part. I have served my country. I know how it works, right? They brought that stack of paper there, and they stand right there until he or she signs everything. No, just sign, just sign. You need to sign here. You need to sign here. And they just sign, right? So that's the way this country is run, right? And Greg, you mentioned something very disturbing on our last show. But there is a questionnaire. I haven't been to none of the consultation, right? That there is an item there on item 12 that if you want to, what you think about taking out the Governor General and replace it with a president. Now, you think they have any right doing that? See, that's the intention that we had been talking about for a couple of years now. At least I have been talking, right? Plus, exactly. We said that was going to happen, and it happened. And most importantly, Greg, you said that instead of giving you a pen, they gave you a damn pencil. That's what you give to infant. Not even infant want pencil now. They want a damn pen or a marker, right? I mean, I'm talking real. Now you see what I say, we talk about the intention of these people. No good intention. No good at all. At least for the people and nation, it's not good. Why the hell does these people do not wait until after the ICJ? Do they know if they're going to have a country after the ICJ ruling? Do they know how the ICJ is going to rule?
They don't care. They don't care.
See what I'm saying?
But
who beat this horse? Nobody. We beat this horse because it's real. And because it involves our people and nation. That's why we beat this horse. Because it directly affects us.
Could I ask you, Alicia, Mr. Wade, I'm going to read this thing. I promised in the beginning of my presentation that I was going to read.
Yeah, go ahead. You have the floor, Mr. Chairman.
Where I was getting the information from, you know. I told the public I was going to.
Go ahead.
Just before we finish up, I want to make sure that at least I get this part in. If you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Thank you very much, sir, for yielding. Back to where I was.
Before
I just want to finish. It's not going to take long. Greg, make I finish it up, please, if you don't mind. When I started my presentation at the beginning of the show, I pointed out that I was going to be making some reading, and I wanted to read where the reading was coming from, but I didn't have it available at the time, so I was going to come back, and when I finished reading the stuff, in the interest of not losing time, I was going to try and point out where I got the information from. So this is where I got the information from in regards to those particular readings. This was a case in the Supreme Court of Belize, AD 2012, claims number 597 of 2011, which was British Caribbean Bank Limited as a client, was claimant, and the Attorney General of Belize, which was the first defendant, and the second defendant was Minister of Public Utility. There was also a concurrent claim that was dealt with at the same time. Just a minute. Yeah, I just need to add back Gregory today. But I think he could add himself back. Really.
I'm right here with you.
Yeah.
I was about to say before you start that. I wanted to show this.
Oh, go ahead.
Can you see it right there?
I see a document and I see a signature. Or
that's the section right there, Mr. Wade. See, I have it circled.
Yes.
All right. What it says, the governor general should be changed to an elected president. If you go down now and you tick that,
that's a survey.
You know what that means.
But that is part of what they were trying to trick people into. They're trying to get you there little by little, and then they will say that you, the public, sign that thing, agree to the survey, and that I won't want to do. Then they try to trick the public into helping them to get to where they want to go, because they don't have enough ballers to come out and say that they want to overthrow the present government, commit sedition. No.
Sad.
They don't hide behind the frack of the people. And I call it, initially I said they were hiding, the PM was trying to hide behind the frack of the commission that he created to go out and solicit this information. When I was saying all those things, people were questioning and saying, I'm just talking to the top of my head. I'm just making false accusations. I don't know where to talk about. I am able to tell what these people are going to do before they do it, because I know who they are. I know how they think. I know what their agenda is. I know I have personnel file on them.
But you know what? Nobody had believed me when I said that they were trying to achieve the agenda of the late Honorable Judge Cadel Price. Did you remember that, Mr. Wade? I was right on everything. And wow, just go ahead, cousin, read it.
Yeah, let me just finish. I'm reading this particular item here because it's very germane as a context to what we're. Okay, so I'll start reading it all over again because okay. In the Supreme Court of Belize, AD 2012, claim number 597 of 2011 between the British Caribbean Bank Limited as first claimant and the Attorney General of Belize as first defendant and the Minister of Public Utility as second defendant. And also there was a concurrent claim that was filed regarding the same issues. Claim number 646 of 2011, claimant being Dean Boyce on behalf of the trustee for the Employees Trust as claimant number 1, and against the Attorney General of Belize and the Minister of Public Utility as defendant number 2 was defendants. The matter was heard in 2012 on the 13th of March, on the 14th of March, and also on the 11th of June. And the people that were involved with that matter before Judge Legal was Mr. Eamon Courtney, Senior Counsel, to whom we heard me refer to earlier tonight, and Mr. Shanti Arthurs Martin for the claimants in claim number 597 of 2011, as well as Lord Peter Goldsmith, Queen's Counsel, QC, and Mrs. Magali Marine Young, to whom we also made mention tonight. My cousin did so. On behalf of the claimant in claim number 646 of 2011, Mr. Dennis Barrow, Senior Counsel, Mr. Nigel Hart, and Ms. Eliane Swift for the defense in both claims. So that is where we got that information that I presented to you earlier tonight. I had the intention to present a little bit more information to try and tie up those loose ends. Our time on the show is running out. And at this point, before we go into another matter that we said we wanted to speak to tonight, I just wanted to say that not only on these matters do we have case laws that my cousin referred to earlier about the Boeing case, the telemedia case, the various case. We also have a most recent case where the learned judge, a female, I forgot her name right now, ruled part of the laws were inconsistent when they were doing the sugarcane under the sugarcane act.
Sugar Industry Act.
Yeah.
Well,
void. So my point about saying to the general public on these particular shows that we do, that the government keeps making these laws despite the fact that they have lawyers in-house with them as part of their cabinet and as part of their House of Representatives. On both sides, they have lawyers. And they keep making these bogus laws, knowing that the laws that they're making are bogus, but they make it gratuitously, hoping that, well, nobody gonna get to sue them, and nobody gonna try to sue the government because the government got deeper pocket than an average person, except for some big businesses where maybe it's a matter of life and death to them business survivors. So they go to the mat fighting. But other than that, they put these laws on the book and they misuse and abuse it and abuse the public with them. And they suffer no consequences. And even when the laws are ruled unconstitutional and they lose the cases then to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars, nothing come out of their pocket or for their salary. That's straight out of the public purse again. So these guys are abused in so many different ways. And we, the Belizeans, continue to be like Kuno money, like we said. The check will need $25 or $50 or $100 or $200 or sometimes or $500. But for those who take the $50, they have to split that $50 for 5 years. That's like what, $10 per year. I mean, the audacity of people who allow themselves to be suborned so cheaply. So I'll leave bottle of beer, and I'll leave plate of food, and I'll leave $50. And you want to put your vote down. And then people make them spend 5 years to rip out the country so that the country not got money to help you make you survive and get one or make one living. And that's all right with you, the Belizean people. Okay? And you're vexed when your other brothers them here in the States, they're telling you that a bunch of fools and idiots, they allow themselves to be taken advantage like that because you don't have the vote. While the same idiots then when they take advantage of one back home there, they take advantage of we out there too, because then they try to deny the rightful constitutional powers to be able to kick them butt out of office if we want to participate in the process and vote them out. No, they don't want us to participate because they don't want to be holding to us. We holler at them too hard. We put too much pressure. You know, we are independent minded because we're not beholden for no damn $50 for one plate of food. And yet sometimes some of you same Belizean people at home there, many of whom I interact with, turn around and talk craziness about, well, you live the States, so you don't suffer the consequences where we suffer. They don't understand that we the outside suffer hell of a lot of consequences in order to make they don't have to suffer as much as they could have made they suffer back home. But they discriminate against we and then derogate free rights under false pretext. And that's all right with them. But it is not all right with me. Personally, me as an individual, it is not all right. And I know there's a hell of a lot of other Belizeans out there whom it is not all right. And there's a hell of a lot of Belizeans at home with whom it is not all right either. So when they're idiots and they're going to tell me craziness, I don't pay them no mind. God, first and foremost, then telling me that I don't have no right or can't exercise no right, no mean that that is the case, or that I believe when they tell me because I know better. When they're ignorant and ignoramus and they try get, hot under the collar. As a matter of fact, when I point out to them constitutionally and quote the Constitution, sections and clauses and verses and subsections and parts and everything to them, they still insist that they don't care and they could care less, because they would want the Constitution to say what they're saying and to validate what they're saying when the Constitution does not. So I just leave them alone. You carry the donkey the water if you drink, but you can't force them to drink if you don't force the head in the water and kick on their guts. So when they breathe in, if you try take in here after you kick on their guts, then they bring up the water as well and get, quench your one thirst. But that's a parable for another occasion. Go ahead, Mr. Wade. I don't know if you have something else to contribute, sir.
Well, for my closing, because I know you will say that right now, Mr. Chairman, right after this, right?
Yes, sir.
My closing,
I did my closing just now, so
yeah. For my closing, like you said, Leonard, I told you so, right? And like I say,
I did laugh, but it's sad.
Yes.
Crazy stuff with the talk about, serious matters, But anyway,
yes.
sorry.
Again, it's always a pleasure being in your company and Gregory in your company. And
I thank you.
We bring truth to the nation and we speak out on issues. And we have been beating these things, the same item we're talking about. We have been talking about it for some time now. So I wish that other platforms out there who call themselves a voice for the people would beat this horse too, because it's obvious and it will affect everybody and it's affecting everybody. So you have these people in the house, my brothers, talking about rule of law, right? Mr. Espat went on and he rumbled with his venom out of his mouth with rule of law, right? And in everything you have to have rules and laws. So let's see. Yes, let's see. Right? Let's see the end result of all the shenanigans, what's going on. If they will have rule of law and they will vote on it because it's rule of law. Like for instance, the minister lately, I hope they will vote of it because there is rules and laws that he shouldn't do what he did. Well, anyway, came from his very own mouth. We talk about the action of the Governor General, right? I don't elaborate much on that, right? Now, my people, I say this is what I'm saying directly to my people, guys. It seems that past and present and over the centuries that it seems that we are just in the habit of loving the politician who raped this country, who lied to we, who do bad things, and no accountability. They are rogue. And
I rape with people too, Mr.
Yes, right? All the bad things to we, but when a good person come along, turn them down, right? But it seems that that's just the norm, right? Because, we like to take lick. Like Leonard mentioned about $50 and $20, and all the bad things, all the lies, especially this Prime Minister, man, blatantly. And stop, continue to do it. And in the house, you continue to see their actions, man. Right? This is what we are paying for, the taxpayers.
Contempt.
And we know them, Yes, we know them, man. And we know the things.
Criminal contempt.
Exactly.
Criminal contempt.
We
Not just
know the
contempt.
things that they do. And they do it all in the name of our taxpayers. Because we're paying them to do these things to us. That's what hurts me.
We trusted them.
Right? And it's a repetitious cycle. And the minister talk about new identity. We seen it coming to we talk about, we see it happening, right? So I said it's all these things playing out, and that what I said just now was directly directed to our voting populace and our people. And here I go now, I call on all the independent thinkers that not sucking anything from PUP, that not sucking anything from the UDP, and they have them on a hold. I call on all the independent thinkers, this is the time now, because people are tired of the UDP, what they did to us, and they are laying in wait to come back and do the same thing to us, right? The PUP, we're tired of what they're doing to us. We've seen it, right? So if you are not beholden to these people, this is your time now. People are sick and tired now, you know. Put on a name up all the independent thinkers. You never know, but this is the time now in this next election. I call on all the independent thinkers, put your name up for the next election coming up, right? Don't be afraid. You want to do right by your people and nation? This is your time, and stop the talking from all in the back. Have all the back mouth. This is your time now. I call on you. Put up now. This is your time. Save your country. Because if you don't do it, the PUP will take us down. This government will take this country down. They're doing it already. On that note, I want to say, you know, thanks to our viewers and listeners. I thank them for the support they give us. Right?
Gonna take a few minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And again, thank you, Gregory and Leonard. Glad to be again once more in your company. Educate the people.
You're welcome, sir. Greg?
Yes.
I know we're running late now, but you want to take a few minutes and just do your closing?
Yes, my input for tonight is this. It's funny when the government wants to do something and accomplish it, how all the puss come out of the bag in Creole. Because now here comes the Auditor General doing open house and town house workshop. Wants to get to the public to find out how they could help to make sure the public funds are safe. Now imagine. Huh? You know what they're trying to do, right? They don't want to fully implement UNCAP. So they will turn around and say, see, we are coming to you guys again, just like constitution reform, because we want to be open. No trickery. No trickery. No, imagine. That will be my take for the night. You know, people, keep your eyes open. Belize is going left real fast. We are about that foot in the doorstep. There is about that foot in the doorstep where we are coming close to being a republic state with authoritarian rule. Just look at the misuse of executive power. And as I say that, here we have the new Attorney General who wants to challenge the ruling of the judge on the case with the Cayenne farmers. Now just imagine, he wants to challenge the judge when the judge says they cannot put a bar to stop people from working. It's discriminating when you tell them if you can't bring 75 ton, you can't bring your cane here. Imagine the unconstitutional effect of that towards the citizen of this country. Guys, I'll wait to see how that will turn out. But I can almost guarantee you what the outcome will be. No change.
Amen to that.
Thank you very much.
With that, with that said, I would like to say good night to the people at home and abroad. Hopefully tonight, me along with my two hosts sitting virtually with me has helped to educate you at home and abroad on something that has to do with the Belizean affairs. I thank you for tuning in. Mr. Chairman, back to you.
Thank you very much, Greg. I'll piggyback on your last statement, and since I had already done my closing, I'll just let that be the word to stand for the night in terms of your speech to the general public and our appreciation of them tuning in and paying attention to what we have to say, so that we're not just giving free advice or trying to be helpful, but at least hoping that people will have some sense of appreciation for our effort. Thank God. May God bless Belize and Belizeans at home and abroad.
Amen.
You have a couple of words you want to hang around for, Greg?
Yes, just for a second. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and